welcome everybody to another live recording of the Business Travel 360 Linking the Travel Industry podcast, where we discuss travel industry news you are talking about on LinkedIn. My name is Rian and I'm one of your hosts today. I'm a co-founder at Agentivity, where we provide operational reporting and data automation solutions for travel sellers. So if that sounds of interest, please get in touch. As usual, I'm joined by Ash and Anne to help me discuss the stories of week 23. So over to you, Anne.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Anne. I'm an independent consultant with LeapShift and happy to help you with anything related to distribution, NDC, one order, etc. Over to you, Ash.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ash, and I'm the host of a weekly business travel podcast called What's Up in Business Travel, where we give you only the important updates in under 15 minutes. Additionally, I'm the Vice President of Client Success at Traxo, and this is Linking the Travel Industry.
Thank you both for joining me as usual. And for those in the audience, it's great to see the room filling up. Thank you for giving us your time. The format of this discussion, if you are new to the event, is us going through the most discussed and engaged travel industry stories on LinkedIn. So we're going to kick off with some partnership news. The IATA AGM was held in India, and at the event, Peter Roberts from Indigo sat down with his counterparts from KLM Air France, Delta and Virgin Atlantic, and they signed quite an agreement, an extensive partnership agreement between those airlines. I saw plenty of posts about this afterwards, obviously quite a discussed story. This one is significant, right, Anne?
Indeed, it is. Actually, that was the most exciting news of that week. And Indigo, of course, being the seventh largest airline in the world, I think there's a phenomenal addition to the weakest alliance. So really happy about this.
Your thoughts, Ash?
Well, I didn't see this quite as an alliance news. Obviously, it is, but they didn't mention that in the presentations or in any of the information, right? This is a personal thing for me. I'm getting a little disappointed because I really believed that Indigo would go the way of One World. And it seems like with Delta and KLM and Virgin, as you know, Delta owns 49% of Virgin. There's definitely a Sky team play here. I'm going to be a little disappointed if this is the way it goes because I really want to Indigo for One World.
And then staying with partnership news, we then saw that the Air France KLM group took a partnership deal with Riyadh Air. They started flying to Riyadh not so long ago, and this agreement, it's still in the making. It's early days, but they talk about it could even end up with service agreements, etc., etc. It's almost the obvious thing to be doing, right?
Well, it seems like every Tom, Dick and Harry, right, is signing deals with Riyadh Air. They certainly aim to be an extremely well-connected airline. What I'm curious about, of course, is understanding their distribution strategy, which still is very unclear to me. So that's going to be interesting to follow.
Okay, good. So don't forget, for those in the audience, if you want to comment on any of the stories, please do so. What are your thoughts on these partnerships? Are they just the obvious ones, or is there something more here to be seen? Another type of investment we saw last week is in the news that Amadeus invested in, and I went to the source to make sure I can pronounce this name correct, Acai Travel. This is a company that provides artificial intelligence type solutions to agents, and Amadeus made a undisclosed minority investment in Acai. Ash, are you glad I went to the source to make sure we can pronounce it correct?
Yeah, because I was going to butcher it and call it Acai.
Yes, so was I.
So I'm glad you figured that out and gave us the right word here. I'm still going to say Acai because I'm American and that's what we do here.
Do that.
This is very interesting. Amadeus kind of reeks a lot of Lufthansa when it comes to investments and partnerships and things like that. They seem to have their hands in almost everything. So the fact that Amadeus is involved in Acai Travel is not a surprise. I'm kind of interested to see what develops out of it. I think they were talking about things around some agent response, time improvements, and other things like that. But for me, I want to see what the solutions are for the actual agents, because this is supposed to be services for the agency community. So I'm kind of excited about that.
And what are your thoughts on the story?
It's very interesting to see Amadeus a bit like Ash was saying, a bit all over the place, right? There are so many investments and they seem to do these parallel sort of tracks, right? The sort of agency side of things and then the airline side of things. Yeah, I would love to hear more about what this actually entails and what it means, because sadly, I think so many times on the agency side, they haven't really excelled in possibilities of what you can do.
I could go back to my source and ask them to come and comment for us, because I would like to know, what does it mean for an Amadeus agent versus another agent? That would be an interesting one to
What does that
know
mean?
as well. Yes, indeed. Before we go further, I just want to turn to the audience. We're not done, not by a long shot, but I just want to say again, thank you for giving us your time on a Monday. We do appreciate that. And if you are new here and enjoying the event, please do tell us where you're listening from. We do like hearing from you. The purpose of linking the travel industry, after all, is to make sure as many of us are connected to one another on LinkedIn, because we all believe we should be talking more and having more exchanges between us. So if you want to tell us where you're listening from, we'll bring that on screen. Say thank you to the audience for giving us your time on a Monday. We do appreciate it, and spread the word if you enjoy the event. So let's continue with the next story. We're still on the theme of investment, and I thought I'd be a bit clever there with the use of my logo. So Uber has acquired the entire taxi operator called Dan Taxi in Denmark. They are Denmark's largest taxi operator. Anne, have you used Dan Taxi before?
I have indeed. I'm not a big fan of taxis in Denmark, though, but, so any move to improve it, which I hope Uber can do, is probably a very good thing.
And Ash, have you heard of Dan Taxi before?
I have actually taken them actually.
Oh,
as
wow.
Well. So yeah, can you imagine an American going on Dan Taxi? But Rian and Ann, this is in response to a few weeks ago, Lyft acquired a service called FreeNow. And FreeNow
FreeNow in Ireland.
Yeah, well, it's considered to be all over. They say they operate them in 150 countries. But I think that when Uber sees Lyft do this and get into this taxi hailing business and provide mobility to these and technologies really to these companies, then this is definitely a threat, because Lyft is not very well known in the European market, and nor is it in the European market. So Lyft's partnership with FreeNow, I think, is getting Uber to pivot and to localize, as you mentioned, because FreeNow brings taxi services in 150 countries to Lyft.
I have to implement my FreeNow app again. I deleted it after I came back from Ireland.
And by the way, FreeNow, 90% of their bookings are taxi bookings, just to give you a clue.
Yeah, that's what I hadn't come across them before, before Ireland. So I was thinking that it was actually a local Irish thing. Oh, wow, it's not. Okay, great. Because, I'm a typical Uber user.
Virgin Australia is going to launch their highly anticipated IPO, which means they're going to re-enter the stock market. They were on it before and they offered, and they've actually gone ahead with an initial public offering where they value themselves at US dollars 443 million, so about $500 million. And there's some interesting things behind it. This is about the fact that the current major stakeholder, the private equity group Bain Capital, they are going to drop their stake from 70% down to just under 40%. And of course, recently Qatar Airways invested. They're going to retain their 23%. So interesting development there. Obviously, somebody knows what they're doing there with regards to timing, and hope they get that right. Also, I guess, and it's also good news for Qatar Airways.
Yes, it is. Very interesting with that partnership in general. And good for Virgin Australia. We need two strong airlines in Australia, right? We need more, but there's only about 30-something million people in Australia, right? Ooh, I could be wrong. I shouldn't make things like that, should I? Good for them. I'm happy for them. Congratulations.
Yeah, indeed. Are you buying some shares there, Ash?
So Anne was actually right, 26.6 million, and so
there you
you're
go.
okay. I was not too excited about this IPO. I would stay away from this. Virgin Australia has a knack in the Australian market. It's a very difficult market to compete in, as we have already established on the show, with Qantas dominating the government institutions. So I would stay away.
And then speaking of investments, which didn't go that well, it was interesting news, and I think this is a post you made about the government of Norway selling their remaining stake in the shares of Norwegian, and us not knowing who the buyer is, but Ash knows, and he told us it's quite likely to be Lufthansa. He was just joking. No, it's not Lufthansa.
No, I actually looked it up to sort of check out and see who is actually behind this. The biggest shareholder in Norwegian now is Jerevan Trading, which is a big shipping guy called John Fredrickson. And it seems like he's bought even more, and then it's like different funds and stuff. Share price was not much, 13-something Norwegian krona. That is half of what Virgin Australia.
And then I think the final story on my list, we have a few extra, is just the interesting announcement, if you want, that Iberia is going to invest quite heavily with Amazon Web Services for, and I quote, accelerate their digital transformation. So, and as usual, we would love to have some details behind this, right?
To me, where is that music? It's about time, isn't it?
Yes.
Iberia seriously needs some digital upgrading. It's really about time. And I don't know if you are aware that they still are on their own host for the inventory, Reciber. Yeah, reservations are made in Altea, which is really, odd. You have an inventory system that is actually separated from your reservation system, which is Amadeus and Altea. So pretty interesting. And they've kept this for as long as, I can remember.
Have you flown on Iberia before, Ash?
Yeah, by the way, I did, and I love that airline. I think they were really, really good. But of course, I always fly in the front of the plane, so everything is good there, no matter which airline it is for the most part, as long as they have it. Iberia has actually launched Iberia GPT. The idea is that it's supposed to improve search capabilities for travelers who are looking to travel into markets and give them flight information, all sorts of good things. So let's follow this one a little bit and see where this goes.
Couldn't resist bringing a picture up that I saw on a post by a guy called Peter Gerstel. His post just said, I couldn't agree more. And the image I'm showing, it shows the BA app, I guess, on his phone, and it just says something went wrong.
Maybe he didn't have internet connection.
Maybe.
Even though the bars are there, so he should be okay.
Yes, the bars are there, yes.
Peter doesn't know this, but British Airways is launching a new website very soon.
Yes.
And that will improve his conditions.
It will fix everything.
Will not go wrong.
Okay, yeah, silly me, I forgot about that. So this is actually the part where we ask the others for extra stories. I've skipped that slide now, but Anne, I do believe you have two for us. First one is this post by Santiago Sobrino. You want to tell us why you found that post interesting?
Extremely interesting, because he's suggesting a possible merger collaboration between Wizz Air and EasyJet. And of course, like on his post, he says it would make perfect sense. And of course it would. It would make absolutely perfect sense. And we know we need more mergers in Europe. And this just caught my interest because he obviously, I would assume that he knows much more than we do.
Now, if you stand back and think about it, it does make absolutely perfect sense. Now, here's a quiz question for you both. What color do you get if you merge orange and purple? Yeah, it goes darker. You get almost like a brownish color. They call it a burnt sienna. So there you go. That will happen if the orange EasyJet and purple Wizz Air have to merge. So just thought I'd bring that up. And then, Anne, you have a second extra story for us. You want to tell us about what this is all about?
Yeah. It's the factory in Canada for Airbus 220. And they've got raccoons in the factory. And it's very problematic.
Remember this one, because a year from now, we'll be hearing raccoon stories in planes.
Yes.
As they are taking off.
Is it impacting on their ability to deliver, Anne, or?
Actually, I don't know that, but I assume that there would be delays.
I have an extra story. We really are desperately looking for only now music for some of our stories. And this is one where we definitely could have used that as well. So last week, Vodafone announced a product called Vodafone Travel eSIM. And it's effectively an eSIM offering that's going to target the sort of competitive providers such as Aurelo and Holofly and, the ones you see popping up all over the show. And, they've come to the unbelievable conclusion that, of course, extraordinary roaming charges are not what customers want to pay. What customers want is something convenient and simple from a trusted supplier, right? So surprise, surprise, surprise. But yeah, this is quite big news. So they're basically entering that market. Now, Ash, I did say I'm going to bring up your extra stories first, but you do have some extra stories for us, right?
Hilton has announced their 1,000th global luxury hotel just this week. And the cool thing about this is they're actually expecting to add about 3 of these luxury hotels per week this year. Per week, Anne and Rian. That's a lot of hotels. This is a category that Hilton will be growing. It's part of acquiring existing landmarks around the world, but also they'll be adding new developments, and they're expecting more than 100 of these hotels to join the development pipeline, which is pretty cool. So good stuff happening on the Hilton side from a luxury perspective. Next story is between JetBlue and Brightline. So Brightline is the train service that we've talked about on this show. And while I've not taken them, I do intend to take them. That's a service that connects Orlando and Miami in the Florida market. So JetBlue is not partnering with them. So you can actually book Brightline on JetBlue's website.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic.
Yes. And then on the India front news, India is now number 3 in the global markets of the world. Of course, 1 and 2 are pretty big. So US is 18%, China is 16.5%, India is 4%, and they're expecting to reach triple numbers by 2044. So IATA says that they'll be hitting almost 20%.
Well, you see, somebody at Air France, KLM, Virgin and Delta read those same statistics, right? And that's why they signed that deal of Indigo.
And by the way, India's market is 80% domestic. So the fact that they're partnering with those airlines definitely makes more sense.
Very good. Okay, well, I think that is a wrap for this week. That was the news from week 23. For those taking part today, thank you so much. All the comments, we do love them. Thank you for listening in. Thank you for giving us your time. We do this every week. Thank you, Rose. Over to you, Anne.
Thanks, everybody. And thank you so much for your comments and all the help that you provide. Over to you, Ash.
Thank you all for joining today's live recording of Linking the Travel Industry. We record this podcast live every week on Monday, and we ask that you share this event with others that you know. Chances are high that if you enjoyed today's session, those that you know will as well. If you ever miss a show because of time zone or availability, you can access the podcast on businesstravel360.com. This is Linking the Travel Industry, signing off.